First, I just want to say that I love Cypress Bible Church. Coming back here to celebrate CBC's 50th anniversary is truly coming home for me. This is where I really became grounded in my faith. John and I began attending Cypress Bible Church shortly after we got married in 1990. The first time we visited, services were being held in the gym. The big worship center hadn't been built yet. As we walked in, we were greeted by Brian Hallila. Brian was the interim pastor. Johnny Miller had just stepped down as a lead and founding pastor. Brian was so friendly and welcoming, and the message was great. So the next week when we walked up, Brian saw us, came and greeted us, and remembered our names. There's just something about being known and having someone remember your name. I really credit Brian for us making CBC our church home. Not long after we began attending, we started volunteering in the preschool. We taught in the preschool for several years, along with getting involved in VBS, Awana, and other events. This led to Diana Hannum asking me if I would be the coordinator for Sunday morning preschool, and then, when Diana was ready to retire, asking me to come on staff as the director of early childhood. I had been working in the automotive industry, but it was at this time that I did feel the call to accept this position and go into ministry. I truly loved my time in the early childhood area, loving on children and serving families, and working with the best volunteers on the planet. The teachers in our preschool went above and beyond to bring the Bible to life and to pour into our kids and preschool families. After several years, there came a time when I felt that God was calling me to something else. I went to Brian Carroll and told him that I thought it was time for me to step down, fully believing that this would be the end of my time on staff at CBC, something that made me really sad. But Brian listened to me and then asked me if I would be interested in a position serving in our local missions and outreach. I am so grateful to Brian for this and offering me the opportunity to serve in this area. Being part of a church body that always stepped up to serve the community was heartwarming. Then Hurricane Katrina came, and I was asked to serve as the director of our shelter at CBC, housing somewhere around 75 people who had been displaced from Louisiana. While this was a really challenging time for all of us, it was also very rewarding to watch how our church body stepped up to serve, love, and care for people who had suffered terribly. This is not surprising, though. This is who CBC is. We moved from being a shelter to providing resources and opportunities for our shelter residents to take next steps to move forward in their lives. Again, it was so great to watch the relationships forged between our church body and their adopted evacuees. Many of our families, like the Eddies, developed lifelong relationships as they cared for and poured into the lives of their adoptee. Finally, in 2008, after many attempts to move closer to CBC, God made it apparent that we were to move to the Woodlands. It was obvious that we were being called to a new season in our lives. The absolute hardest part of moving to the Woodlands was leaving our Cypress Bible Church family. Our time at CBC was the sweetest and most faith-building and faith-growing time in my life. We were blessed to have amazingly strong pastors and men of God who shared their faith, poured knowledge into us. Dave Gibson and Joe Wall specifically helped me to grow in my faith and glean so much more knowledge and understanding of the scriptures, God's truth, and God's amazing love for me. It was here that I learned what being a part of a church family really was about. It was at Cypress that we got connected to a small group, a community of other young believers who walked through life together, both the good times and the really incredibly hard ones. We were blessed to be a part of 2 different small groups during our time at CBC. We experienced how essential being a community with a small group of other believers walking through life together really is. It was here at CBC that people like Brian Carroll and Diana Hannum poured into me, mentored me, and gave me opportunities to serve in ministry. I will be forever grateful to CBC, the pastors, staff, and elders, and to God for leading us here all those many years ago. It's so great to come home here and celebrate God's faithfulness leading CBC through 50 amazing years.